Hey everyone, it's Christos here, aka the FRAG, and say hello to my little friend. This is Vegemite, and Vegemite is a time-honoured delicacy here in Australia. We spread it on our bread, on our toast with butter. It is beautiful. Seriously, it is very salty, but it's delish. Now, if you live outside Australia and your supermarket sells it, steal it. Don't buy it, steal it. I'm kidding. I don't want my viewers participating in criminal activity. I'm joking. So I'm going to put Vegemite down now, but we've put our Christmas decorations here up at our household, and I'm going to put it on the family Christmas tree tonight. So, talking about tonight, I'm here to review the Fender Made in Japan traditional 60s jazz bass. Now, before I get started, please guys and girls, hit like, subscribe, leave comments. I'm always irregularly posting videos contingent on work, family, commitments, raising the dead, seances. You know, it gets pretty busy for us demon hunters. But you know, if you're going to leave comments and you disagree with me or someone else that's left comments, please, let's do it in a dignified way. But do leave comments. I love communicating, conversing with my YouTube subscribers. You guys are fantastic, and I love you all, and thank you so much for the numbers that have been added over the years. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this up into a few parts. First, I'm going to start off with the specifications of the bass. Secondly, I'm going to move on to things that I've noticed about the bass that you may want to be mindful of. Not that it's a negative or anything like that, but just things that I've noticed. Thirdly, then I'll move on to sound samples. And then finally, I'll close out the video with things that I might do to the bass in terms of customization. So let's start in terms of the specifications. It's a jazz bass. Okay, it's a jazz bass. Yeah, it's iconic. Yeah, unless you're a aficionado of the precision bass, you could argue otherwise, but the precision and the jazz basses are nothing short of iconic. So you've got the jazz bass design with the contours at the top here, and also the rib, the belly curve there. It is a basswood body. It's not alder. So what is basswood? Basswood is a species of wood that's actually is a softer hardwood. And this is lighter, noticeably lighter than my Made in Japan Hybrid 2 precision bass. You pick up the two and you really feel the difference in that bass there compared to this. So it's basswood. You've got your bent steel vintage bridge with the 4 bridge saddles. You've got 2 vintage voiced pickups. Now these are lower output, so you probably wouldn't want to use this bass if you're going to play full on extreme metal or anything like that. Jazz, blues, rock, classic rock, it does it really, really well. But if you want something heavier, then you might want to decide to chuck these out and put in something like Seymour Duncan quarter pounders. You've got a volume for the neck pickup, a volume for the bridge pickup, and then you've got a master tone, obviously your input. You've got a 4-ply tortoiseshell pickguard, which looks really... look, I've never been much of a tortoiseshell pickguard person and a white guitar person, but when you put these two together, the contrast is really, really nice. I cannot complain. It's really, really nice. You've got your 4-bolt neck plate behind there. There's no logo, there's no Fender logo, no Made in Japan. It's just plain. It's just plain. The actual truss rod nut is at the base of the neck. So in order to adjust the profile of the neck, or if it's bowed or bent or anything like that, or arched, you have to unscrew the 4 bolts here. You don't necessarily have to remove the neck. I've seen videos where bassists just unscrew enough that the neck tilts upward so you can get access to the truss rod screw. So just be mindful of that as well. You've got a U-shaped neck according to the website. Now U-shape, you tend to think it's going to be a bit of a thicker neck. Actually, it's not. This is almost identical to my Player Series basses, and they have a modern C-shaped neck. Now on the back of the neck, it's maple. There's no skunk stripe, but it is gloss. It is gloss. I'd be keen to hear your thoughts, folks. Some people like that natural satin matte finish as opposed to gloss. Other people like the gloss finish. You've got a beautiful rosewood fretboard, 20 vintage style frets. In other words, they're narrower and shorter as opposed to the medium jumbo frets on my Player Series basses. You've got a bone nut here, a proper bone nut, so it's not synthetic, it's not mother of toilet seat or anything like that. And being a jazz bass, it's 38.1 or so. So all intents and purposes, it's 38mm width. Then you've got your machine heads, which again, for all intents and purposes, are Goto machine heads. These are the GB10s. They're not stamped like Goto, made in Japan, as they are, but the GB10s are probably the biggest selling bass machine head in Goto's history. Made in Japan, they're a 20-to-1 ratio, which means for every time you turn this machine head 20 times, the string holder turns once. And so you want a good size ratio, in other words 20-to-1, 26-to-1, because the more you turn this, you want this to turn less to get fine tuning. Otherwise it was like 10-to-1, you turn this a bit and this would turn a lot, the string holder, which would make fine tuning very, very difficult. You've got your string holder there, and so that's pretty much it. But you do feel the difference in weight compared to had this been an older body. Now let's move on to the part two, which is things I picked up about this bass. Yes, going back to the point, the fact that this is a basswood body and it's lighter here, you can actually feel the weight of the maple neck. And look what happens. You've got instantaneous neck dive. Now that's not a bad thing. It can be fixed with a good strap and a good holder, but that's just something that you need to be mindful of. Another thing also, again, is the fact that the truss rod, as opposed to my Hybrid 2, where the truss rod nut is accessible at the top part of the neck or the headstock using a Allen key, which is much easier. This one, you have to remove the neck in order to access the truss rod screw. So some people like that, other people they may not be comfortable. And also, when you're re-screwing your screws back onto your neck plate, make sure you turn them to the point where they just make contact with the wood. You don't want to turn them too tight, because ultimately you're at risk then of bending the corners of the neck plate. You want it firm but not tight. Yeah. Now, other than that, that was pretty much it. I didn't find anything negative about this bass. The build quality is excellent, and I got this at a really, really good price. For anyone who lives in Sydney, at the Guitar Lounge in Clarence Street in the business district of Sydney, go visit Robert. He's a lovely bloke, and he gave me a really good price on this. And it does come with a gig bag as well. Now, I'll move on to part 3, which is doing some sound samples. And what I'll do is I'll start off with all the dials there at full turn. So I've got both pickups on and also got the tone on at full. And I'm going to play one of my old classic favourites, Sure Know Something by Kiss. Now I must say I'm running it through my Fender Rumble 25, and I've got the overdrive channel on, and pretty much everything's pretty much at 12 o'clock. Bass, middle, bass is probably a little bit more, but middle and treble is around sort of that 12 o'clock sound. So let me dial back the neck pickup, and this is my favorite setting, where neck pickup is on full. The bridge pickup is probably about 30% dialed back and with the tone on full. And for me, this is my favorite setting for the jazz bass. Now I'll turn the bridge pickup off completely, so it's just the neck pickup. Now I'll turn the bridge pickup to full and I'll just turn off the neck pickup. You can hear that the bridge pickup sounds pretty raspy. It sounds actually nice. Now, let me start pretty much that phase again, and I'll turn the tone all the way to 0, and I've got both pickups on at full. So what I'll do now is I'll turn off the bridge pickup completely. So I've got 0 tone, 0 bridge pickup, and I've got the neck pickup on full. Take 2. So now I'll turn on the bridge pickup to full and I'll turn off the neck pickup completely. And then I'll go back to my original setting where I've got the tone and the neck pickup on full, and I've got the bridge pickup about 1/3 down. And that for me sounds really nice. And what I do find is that when I try and determine the output of my pickups, I plug my lead into the input jack, and then I take the other point of the lead and I attach the 2 points of my multimeter, and then I play around with the volumes when I set my multimeter to 20k, and that determines the DC, in other words, the DC resistance or the output of my pickups. And as it stands here, that is the maximum output where I can get of these 2 pickups. It's around 7.6k, which is not, you know, when you think the Seymour Duncan quarter pounders are like 13.5, it's not high output, but it's more around a warm vintage tone. And that's why I set it with the neck pickup at full and the bridge pickup at about 1/3 down, because when I set my multimeter to measure the output, that is the maximum output I can get out of those pickups. I should also mention that the fretboard has a 9.5-inch radius. So apologies, I should have mentioned that in the first part of this video. And what 9.5-inch radius means is that, if you remember our old mathematics days at school, the radius measures the midpoint of a circle to the outer circumference. So if you start at a midpoint and work up 9.5 inches, if you then take that line to draw a circle, the curvature of that circle equals the curvature of this fretboard. And what does that mean? What it means is that when you're looking down the fretboard, it's got a slight curvature. And the bigger the inch radius, the flatter it is. Because as you start to go up higher and higher inch radius, like 9.5, 12, 16, 20 inch, you're drawing a larger circle. And when you're taking a small portion of that, it actually works out straighter, as opposed to 7.25 inch radius like the vintage basses, which have a real defined curvature. And the benefit with that is, especially with electric guitars, is that the flatter that the fretboard is, the less inclined it is that when you've got strings on it, when you're starting to bend, they don't get choked out because of the curvature of the fretboard. So the flatter that it is, the more you can bend your strings and the more they sustain. So moving on to the final part of this review in terms of modifications. Now, I've already done a few little tiny modifications in that I've taken, with my jazz basses, I have a tendency to take out the smaller dial that's here and add a normal size dial, because I actually think it looks nice having three big dials. The tone dial on jazz basses tends to be like a third of the size, and it's like, it just doesn't look right to me. So I changed that, and what I've also done is I've added a set of Jim Dunlop strap holders. I haven't got the strap locks, just the strap holders, because what I did find with the standard strap holders, firstly, they do not have a felt tip. They make direct contact with the body, which, you know, I'm not comfortable with. Secondly, because the standard Fender strap holders are shorter in length, I found that my Levy's leather strap was squeaking against the paint. So if I was moving, you can hear that squeak, 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 and it was irritating. Because the Dunlops sit a bit further out, it eradicates this, which is fantastic. Now, would I change the pickups? No, I'm going to leave it. In some of my other basses, I've changed the pickups, I've changed the internal componentry and added a obsidian wire harness, which is a New Zealand company that makes harnesses with pots and everything that is all solderless. You just use a little screwdriver to press onto a little spring mechanism, and you insert the ground and hot wires and so forth, and that's it. There's no soldering needed, and you can swap out your pickups easier. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave this bass as it is. But one thing I will do is I'm going to change the bridge for a hip shot kick-ass bridge, and that's it. I mean, other than that, as this beauty came out of the box, it just plays and sounds beautiful. You've got that real quality, top-notch Japanese craftsmanship, you know, invested in these bass guitars. And when you think these are retailing for around $1,500 here in Australia, I got it cheaper than that. I got a really good deal. When you think the next one above this really is your American Performers and ultimately really your American Professional 2s, which, you know, for the jazz bass here in Australia, it's retailing for around $2,700, $2,800, and I can't justify that really. When you think that, you know, for almost half as much, you're getting a really, really good solid bass guitar, which begs the question, okay, sure, with the Americans, especially the American Professional 2, you're getting the molded hard case, the Fender molded hard case, and some other case candy, and, you know, it's an older body and so forth, and you've got graphite rods in the neck. That's great, don't get me wrong, but is that enough to justify another $1,200, $1,300 above this? I don't know. This serves its purpose for me. So, in closing, thank you so much, everyone, for subscribing and, you know, supporting me along this journey. And it's great hearing the positive words, the feedback that I get from you people. Please keep them coming. Keep safe. Stay positive. No matter what we're going through right now, we're going to get through this. Rock on, and God bless you all. Thanks.